You were the media relations director for Johnny Carson's Tonight Show, right?
Yeah, just about 10 years. I was the publicist for the Tonight Show with when Johnny was there. From I guess I joined NBC in '80, and I was there till the early '90s when he started. Yeah, almost 12 years.
Very cool. Now, take us back, since it was the anniversary.
I'm calling you actually from Palm Springs. I'm in Palm Springs, and of course, Johnny used to go to Frank Sinatra's birthday party here often. I'm at the Miramonte Hotel. I don't know if you know the Miramonte, but it's in Indian Wells, which is next to Rancho Mirage, which is where, of course, Frank Sinatra lived. And Johnny Carson would often come to Frank Sinatra's birthday parties out here.
Oh.
So I'm on my way back into L.A. right now. But
so you are getting a little nostalgic today because you're hanging out where Johnny hung out with all the big stars.
Yes, he did. And he would always, of course, go to Frank's birthday party. He was pretty around Christmas time. But, But it's hard to believe, Jennifer. It's 50 years.
It really is.
I remember seeing the first show. I was just a very young guy in college, and I do remember the first show. In fact, I can even tell you the guests if you want.
Yeah, take us through, because sure. There's a whole new generation of people that may just really know the Jay Leno Tonight Show. So take us back. What was the Tonight Show like before Johnny took over, and then take us through that first night when Ed McMahon started things off with that famous "Here's Johnny."
Jack Paar was the host before Johnny, and he was the host for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And before him, of course, was Steve Allen. And the show really got developed out of a guy named Sylvester Pat Weaver, who was Sigourney Weaver's father, the actress.
Really?
Father. And he was the guy it was his concept. And came out of a show called Broadway After Dark, which was a local New York TV show in the early 50s. But that's probably more than you need to know. But the first show that Johnny took over was actually 50 years ago tonight, and Paar had left the show in the spring of '62.
Now, under what circumstances did Jack leave?
It was, I think it was a mutual departure by that time, because he had walked off the set, and there was some contractual problems with NBC and Jack Paar. Then he came back, and I'm trying to do the timeline, but he stayed only for a year or two, and then he just wanted. They didn't renew his contract.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to continue, so that would have been spring of '62, and then it went into reruns for the summer, and then into the fall, and then Johnny Carson took over exactly 50 years ago tonight, October 1st, 1962.
Wow!
And the first guests were, in case you'd like to know.
Yeah, I do. That's what I'm curious.
They are. It was fun. Actually, the show then was an hour and 3/4 long, Jennifer.
Really? So an hour and 45.
Yeah, it started 11:15. Yeah, 11:15 to 1 a.m. And the first guests were a handful of about 5 different celebrities, including Joan Crawford, Tony Bennett, Rudy Valley, the singer, Mel Brooks, and Groucho Marx flew in from California.
Wow!
Introduced Johnny on his first night. Yeah.
That is incredible.
So those 5 celebrities were, in fact, fragments of the first show exist, but NBC, in its wisdom, erased most of the shows in the early years, and then they were stored in New Jersey for a while. They started getting hip to the idea that it would be wise to keep these shows and keep them stored away somewhere. Then they had a fire in New Jersey and destroyed most of the shows. So until you get into the late 60s, early 70s, there isn't really a lot of shows available for viewing anymore, but only parts of that first show some people were able to reassemble, but only a couple minutes.
I looked a little bit earlier today, and I did notice that Groucho Marx, that segment, there is a few of those on YouTube, but you're right, there wasn't a whole lot to find on YouTube of the first show. Yeah. So now Ed McMahon was with Johnny at this time, right?
Yes, he was. Actually, they started on a game show, Who Do You Trust?
Okay.
Which was an afternoon game show in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And Ed told me many times, I was also Ed's publicist as well on Star Search when the Tonight Show ended 5 years. So I worked with both of them pretty closely. But yeah, Ed actually and Johnny were together on Who Do You Trust, which is a afternoon game show. And then they went their separate ways. And when it turned out, when Johnny was offered the Tonight Show hosting, he met with Ed at Sardi's Restaurant, the famous showbiz restaurant in Broadway, just before he signed his contract.
Mm-hmm.
and they talked about whether they should do the Tonight Show together. And Ed was kind of surprised. He was really quite shocked that Johnny took his counsel so seriously.
Well, and, they had such a good chemistry.
Yeah, they did. They really worked well together. He really was the perfect second banana, as they used to call him. Perfect straight man. And, Ed and I were fairly close friends as well. So how it happened, actually, they had lunch together, Johnny and Ed, at Sardi's, the second lunch. And then Ed wasn't sure what was going on. And he went home and said, I wasn't sure I had the gig. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And he got a call the next day. He kind of thinking he didn't sleep all night. Got a call all day next day from the wardrobe guy. And he said, we need to know, what size jacket you're going to be wearing, a suit size.
They were ready to go.
He said, well, why? Well, he said, what do you mean? Well, don't you know you're going to be Johnny's announcer? You're going to be doing the show with him. That's how he found out.
Wow. So he was just told.
Quite a story. He was pretty nonplussed. Yeah, he was shocked. He was laughing. That's how people find out the most big surprises sometimes.
Now, how was the first Tonight Show? How was it formatted 50 years ago? Did they do the traditional monologue and then go into the guests, or did Johnny go straight into his guest segments?
Well, it was kind of, they both told me that we did an interview for the 25th anniversary show. Both of them told me they didn't know what they were going to do. They're going upstairs into the studio where NBC produced the show. Of course, it was live, and for a live audience. And then, Ed said to Johnny, what are we doing tonight? And Johnny replied, I don't know, Ed. Let's just go out and entertain them.
I love that.
Pretty much play by ear. No, the monologue came along later. And we just, sat down and, Groucho introduced him, and then there were the 5 guests. And it was about an hour and 3/4 in length. And it was pretty much impromptu. And the guests performed, and Mel Brooks, of course, told his jokes, and I guess Rudy Valley sang a song or two. I can remember the first show. I watched it with my father. I was in college in Connecticut. And I can remember watching the first show. My father was not a big fan of the show at all because he was really a huge Parr fan.
Can you hang on with us, Charlie?
Yeah, sure.
Hang on. We'll be right back. It is a PM show. Charlie Barrett's our guest on CRN Digital Talk Radio.